So really, my theme song isn't going to work anymore now. I guess at this point, hopefully my Wi-Fi works. This is Let Us Interrupt You, episode 117 here on Friday, March 3rd, and my hair does look bad here. March 3rd, 2023. I am Joseph Olivo. My theme song just crashed for whatever reason right in the middle of it. I don't know if anybody even heard it, but right in the middle of me trying to get set up here, as my hair is just looking ridiculously bad here. There we go. See, I don't want my bangs to stick out like this. So it's been a long. I just came home from a 10-hour shift to do this for you guys. So hopefully you enjoy the show. We got a lot to dig into here. We got NHL trade deadline news. We have Pasternak, who's now a Bostonian for life. That is the title of this episode. We have some NFL news to get into. Mainly some really just a lot of craziness that's happened the last 24 hours with the combine, stuff that's happened, the Michael Irvin lawsuit that I really didn't get a chance to cover as much on the podcast here. It happened a couple weeks ago, but we'll dig into that as soon as possible. I will grade the NHL trade deadlines at this point. I think this was an interesting time for the trade deadlines here. I thought the trades were worked out pretty good. Really, if we had to go far as back as when this whole thing started, which was basically 2 days ago, the trades I thought were tremendous. I would say within the last 24 hours here, Jonathan Quick went from being a from a LA King to a Columbus Blue Jacket to a Las Vegas Golden Knight. I thought this was a spectacular move. Jonathan Quick is one hell of a goal. He's been with the Kings now for over a decade now at this point anyway. He's had a great amount of saves. And honestly, if Linus Ullmark gets hot, let's say hypothetically the Bruins, for whatever reason, decide to give him up, Jonathan Quick could be a really good replacement. And Quick is going to be a rental player anyway for Vegas anyway. I mean, who knows what lines are drawn here right now when it comes down to Linus Ullmark at this point. Is he going to be a free agent at this point? Does Ullmark get moved? Does Quick get into the mix in the whole thing? I think it's interesting. Jonathan Quick, I'd say is one great goalie. He's been with the Kings now for over for at least a decade. He's got 2 Stanley Cup championships with the Kings, one in 2012, one in 2014. But this was a good move on their part. Michael Hutchinson was the person who got traded from Vegas to Columbus in this exchange. He was originally going to be in Columbus, but it was part of a trade. You got Edmonton this week that had, and actually for a grade for this, I give it like about a B plus, based on what they really just gave away and what the Columbus got back in return. I mean, this was a B on their part for Vegas. I'd say a C plus maybe on their part, maybe even a C, average grade. For Edmonton Oilers, getting Nick Bajkowski and DeCam Dien. And Arizona got Michael Kersling back and a 3rd-round pick for this year's draft. I thought that was all B's all the way around. It's a good trade. You got a nice forward in there. You got a defensive at this point. You try and make a statement heading into the playoffs where they've been basically lackluster at best. This is B all the way around. Phoenix is a tanking team. They want to get rid of their best pieces at this point and have them go to a contending team and have them compete for something because they know that Phoenix is trying to tank at this point. It's a good move all the way around. Dimitri Olov joining the Bruins in a trade that was basically a move on their part. He made his Bruin debut the other night at Calgary Flames. He got traded in there. Also, you got Tyler Dumfries, who was traded from the Red Wings to the Bruins. I don't have the exact trade of what they got back in return in that move, but it was a pretty good deal on their part. It was a pretty good damn deal. You also got these trade alerts that just happened recently. You got the Rangers who acquired and Antoine Bildel from the Avalanche for forward Gustavo Rodal. You got the Sharks who acquired Jacob Peterson from the Stars. The Sharks acquired Jacob from the Stars for Scotty Riddy. So those 2 trades out of their way there. You also got Calgary Flames acquiring forward Driedren Hunt from Maple Leafs for forward Radam Zoma, tracking all the deadline deals. Oh, actually, is that not all of them? Okay, so Penguins acquired Dmitry Koloff from the Ducks for Brock McGinn in a third-round pick. And I had the rest of the deadline deals, and all these deals I think so far have gotten C's at this point. The Bruins, though, signing David Pasternak, I think, was a smart deal. He's gotten much better this season, and you want to keep this guy around. You know, you don't want to make the same mistake and let Tyler like when you let Tyler Seguin slip away from you, and now he's with the Dallas Stars. So to me, this was a good move. This was a good move on their part. It was smart. It made a lot of sense here. Not sure why this is not letting me show all this stuff. Anyway, this is what happened today. So Blackhawks get forward Austin Wagner for Kings future considerations. Predators get Ramos Asplin. Sabres get a 7th-round pick in return. These were like mid-average like grades at best. I get it's like a C for most of these. Rangers get defensive player Wyatt Kalynuk. Canucks get future considerations here. Let's take a look here. We got the Sabres trading with the Ducks for they got Austin Strand. Ducks get Chase Prisky. Sabres and Wild worked out a trade. They got Jordan Greenway. The Wild gets a draft pick, 2nd-round pick for this year's draft, and a 5th-rounder for next year's draft as well. I already went over that trade. Kings get Nate Charnard from the Canadiens. And the Canadiens in return get Frederick Allard. Another good, solid grade there. Nice defensive swap there. It's good business that the Kings get that at this point. They're trying to gear up as well. Even though I think getting rid of their goalie at this point was kind of surprising and really thought was kind of scary to think about it now. But Kings get forward Zach McEwen. Flyers get forward Brendan Luxman and a 24th, 5th-round pick. So they got the year 24, obviously, not 23. A lot of these trades that were happening today. Sharks get a boatload. This was a triple header here. Penguins get forward Nick Bonino. Sharks get defensive player Arvid Hendrickson and a conditional 5th-round pick for 2023 and a 7th-round pick for also for 2023 as well. Canadians get Tony Snudd and a 2024 5th-round pick. Blues and Red Wings worked out a trade. It was Dylan McLaughlin. They got from the Blues. Blues get Jacob Verana. All these are good, solid grades. I think at this point, these were B at average at best. But again, these moves just set the tone here for the entire week. Got Michael Grinald. Predators get a 2023 2nd-round pick out of that deal. Sharks, Penguins get Predators get. Well, I already said that. Sharks get Vlasiv Nastavnev. And Lions get forward Michael Izimit in this whole thing. There are a lot of good trades that happened this week. But according to ESPN, and I'm not basing it off on this, I think that the best grade, though, and the best move and the smart move on the Vegas part was getting Jonathan Quick. That was probably one of the better trades, I think. And Patrick Kane going to the Rangers. You talk about that probably being the best grade out of all of them. You got a guy who was a 3-time Stanley Cup champion. And I have the statistics right here in front of me for what Patrick Kane really is and what it really means to be on this team. It's almost incredible to even believe at this point that these deals were even made at this point. You also had this week Eller going to Colorado from Washington for a 2nd-round pick. I mean, just all the way around, like these trades made a lot of sense here. But look at Patrick Kane's statistics here. 3-time Stanley Cup champion. 2012-2013 Conn Smythe Trophy, the 2015-2016 Hart Trophy, the 2015-2016 Art Rose Trophy, 2015-2016 Ted Lindsay Award, 2007-2008 Calendar Trophy. He's got 446 goals in his career, 779 assists, and 1,225 points in his career with the Blackhawks. This is a guy that will be sorely missed in Chicago. And I think the fact that he got let go in a trade here was the biggest surprise because I really didn't think he was going to get traded. And if anything, I thought he was going to go to the Lightning or realistically, the Devils. But the Rangers, solid trade. That was probably one of the better trades. I think that was the best trade they got out of this entire trade deadline. The Rangers got the number 1 trade win here. I think the Vegas Golden Knights come in second here. The Bruins got another defensive man at this point. It kind of set the tone going forward with what they got in return there. And I think it was a good move. Nick Jensen signed a 3-year deal this week, staying in Washington. So Washington was able to retain him. Dylan Larkin got an 8-year deal with the Red Wings a couple of days ago. Let's see what else happened in the last couple of days in hockey. We're going to try to scroll through here. Pasternak got the 8-year deal, $90 million. This was a good deal on their part. This was. I know I just went over that just once, but that was a really good deal that they got there. Dante Fabio, or Fabio, wow, I messed one up. Dante Fabro got a 1-year deal with the Predators. You got Nicholas Alcubol extending himself to another year with the Washington Capitals. So good signings on their part. Really good signings here over the last couple of minutes, over the last few minutes here, and just all this that happened in the last few minutes here were interesting here. So I got you some Bruins reports here. They got the win last night in a 7-1 victory over the Buffalo Sabres at home. You also had the Senators beating the Rangers last night 5-3. Stars beat Blackhawks 5-2. Wild beat the Canucks 2-1 last night. Kings beat the Canadiens 3-2. Predators beat the Panthers last night 2-1. Penguins in overtime won. Tampa Bay beat the Lightning 5-4. Maple Leafs beat the Calgary Flames 2-1. Kraken beat the Red Wings in overtime in Detroit 5-4. And finally, the St. Louis Blues go to San Jose to beat the Sharks 6-3. That was your hockey news that I simply got last night. And more in a way, this was a 1 week for hockey trades, because this was probably one of the better hockey deadline trades that I've seen in a while. Like the amount of people that come and went. This felt like the NFL trade deadline if there was a massive amount of players being moved that were big time stars. This felt good. This gave hockey a lot of attention. Especially when you know now the face of hockey and Patrick Kane, who you could argue right now has been the face of hockey for the past, I would say, 7 years. You can think about it right now, it's between Ovechkin and Crosby for the first part of the face of the league. But when the new face is Patrick Kane, and he's doing his part right now with the Blackhawks, and now he's going to be a New York Ranger on top of that one, bigger market. Although Chicago and New York, you can argue right now, they're kind of similar in markets, really. But as far as what the focus is going to be for the Rangers at this point going forward, before this guy hangs it up and calls it a career, doing this for 17 years, is this the year for Patrick Kane? Is this why the Rangers cashing on it now? Is this their year? Should they've won it last year? And there's a lot of people that are debating about this, because the New York Rangers should have won that series last year against the Tampa Bay Lightning in that Eastern Conference final. You could argue right now they let that Game 5, Game 6 go, and they let the Lightning win that series, and they shouldn't have, especially when you're playing Game 6 at home and you blow that series. So to me, that worked out perfectly for that move to happen right now. And David Pasternak here at this point, like I said before, I'll say it again, smart move on the Boston Bruins part. They didn't want to let the guy go. They got another defensive man out of the whole thing. You have the future MVP, Linus Ullmark, who, if Kane retires this season, and I'm going to put this out there right now as a hot take right now, either Pasternak or Linus Ullmark will be the new face of the NHL. I'm just going to put it out there for you. Pasternak has been like the main focus of the Bruins this season anyway. He's been the main focus right now throughout hockey this year. And Linus Ullmark, you can argue right now, the way he's been playing goalie this season, he's making a case right now of this being just not just a fluke year, but he's the real deal goalie. And for Pasternak, getting that 8-year extension in his contract to be ran as a Bruin, he's retiring as a Bruin. This guy is not going to go anywhere at this point. He's got another 8 years left, probably even more. And I think realistically, if you could argue right now, it could come down to Pasternak or Giannis Ullmark could be the faces of the league. And I'm not just saying because I'm wearing a Boston Bruins t-shirt, obviously, although it's kind of faded. You can't really tell in this image there. But the whole gist of it is Pasternak has signed the massive contract at this point to be relevant in the Boston sport area, to being really the face of Boston now going forward. I mean, if things don't pan out with the Celtics this year, let's say hypothetically, if Jaylen Brown, is looking for a way out, Tatum at this point doesn't know what he's doing at this point, looking at his sneakers, Pasternak may as well be taking over right now to face of Boston because Mac Jones is never going to have that image. He's not. I'm sorry to say, but he's not going to have it. Jaylen Brown ain't going to be the face of Boston because Boston can't stand him. It's just like Donovan McNabb hatred in Philadelphia. It's the same exact hatred. You could look at it and say McNabb did a lot over the years for Philadelphia. If that were the case, then why did he leave to go to Washington? Why didn't he just retire? There's an argument to be made there about McNabb's career at that point in Philadelphia. And you look at it now, David Ortiz, the longest time, along with Tom Brady, along with Paul Pierce, along with Garnett, they were the faces of Boston. Now at this point, you got a Boston Bruin at this point who signed a massive contract deal. If it's not, because let's think about it this way in this perspective here for a minute. In St. Louis, where the Rams were playing football in, who was the face of their town, of their state? It was Kurt Warner, and it was Marshall Faulk. That was the face of the entire sport area. There was no other faces besides those two guys. Those are the main focus in the early, late 90s, early 2000s. What was the main focus in the late 90s and early 2000s? Tom Brady and the Patriots. Mid 2000s, Tom Brady and the Celtics and the Red Sox. Ortiz, Pierce, Brady. Now at this point, and I'm just going to put this down in perspective now, this contract right here that Pasternak got solidifies, and his play as well, solidifies him as now being the face of Boston. That's it. There's no other way of putting it out there at that point. I mean, the way he's been playing lately as it is with his goals and his assists and getting the points in there and just being aggressive, not holding back and not, playing to his full potential at first, but now is just remarkable at this point. It's absolutely remarkable. It's amazing. And I'm glad he's doing a good job with it. I really am. So kudos to Pasternak, by the way. Kudos to him. We got lots more to talk about here on this podcast, and I'm doing this live here. So thank you for all who may or may not watch this later on right now, but give me the thumbs up right now on Facebook and stuff like that. Give me the thumbs up on YouTube. I do appreciate it a lot. I know it's not a lot of likes that I get a lot normally on this show, but I do appreciate it. I really do. This was a very positive week as far as getting content goes. This was like nonstop content today from the moment this week started. This was complete content overhaul here as far as what is going to happen now going forward. Well, what I've been hearing about all week long, this has been nonstop NFL news, which I'm going to start off with this one this week, which is the Cleveland Browns want to build a new stadium. So they're basically stealing. So basically, they're turning into Chicago Bears at this point. They want to blame the stadium for not producing results, but they are looking to build a new stadium in the year 2028 when their lease is up. And I kind of look at it like this. I mean, they need to get out of the doghouse anyway. That stadium is a dumpster fire. I'm just basically telling it like I see it. Over the years, it looked great on TV, but when they cleaned it up a little bit, it's not as special. It really isn't. I will tell you this right now about the Cleveland Browns, though, at this point. No matter what they do as a franchise, keep Deshaun Watson for the next 5 years. Does he retire as a Cleveland Brown? Does he retire as one of the guys that passes Tim Couch or whatever for passing yards or whatever the case may be? Or because there hasn't been a relevant quarterback in Cleveland since '99. Let's be realistic here. You can say it's Baker Mayfield. It really doesn't matter. Baker Mayfield was a bust. It's just plain simple. When you're a backup quarterback and you're not really producing, you kind of suck. And that's just the way it is. But Deshaun Watson and all his ridiculous lawsuits that went against him, all the drama that he did, he couldn't keep it in his pants. And now the city wants to have a new stadium being made where they haven't done anything in their old stadium at this point. And they're probably going to piss out their fan base at this point because I haven't heard one fan complain about their stadium at all. As crazy as it sounds. Look at Pittsburgh. They have been living in Heinz Field at this point, which I'm going to call it Heinz Field because I don't remember the exact new name for it now anyways. But it was that dumb insurance company. That's all I know. But they've been living in Heinz Field for over 21 years. Cleveland has just moved back to Cleveland. Back in, it was like late 98, early 99. So about 25, 26 years in that stadium. You could argue they got a nice fresh haircut when they got Baker Mayfield to play for them. But in reality, if we're going to really be realistic here about this time right now in Cleveland for them, it has not been too nice. They've had 0-16 seasons. They've had pretty bad records. They've had some nightmarish at the quarterback position, head coaching replacement, general manager replacement, owners, trying to, get themselves not accountable for anything, trying to sell their team when nobody wanted to buy it. Just so much crap that has happened over the years. A lot of disrespect from the players to the coaches. I mean, it's been nonstop, just bad publicity from one moment to the next. And it's sad, really, that that's what it has become in reality. But that's exactly what it's become at this point. It's become a big giant joke because at this point, no one's taking these teams seriously. The Browns getting a new stadium at this point. If anything that's going to accomplish anything, which it's not going to, then good for them. Good on their part. Otherwise, this is a completely meaningless story. It's great the Browns want to build a new stadium, but I mean that fan base is gonna hate that new tradition. Buffalo doesn't seem to care because they just want to use every excuse in the book of why they can't win a game in cold weather. Cleveland could at least make the game competitive. So that's the only thing I could say about this, really. Michael Irvin, during the Super Bowl coverage, was at the Marriott Hotel. Basically, sexually assaulted a woman at the Marriott. Was thrown off of the NFL analyst for Radio Row Week. Just wasn't allowed to do any media coverage. Was removed from the media coverage. It turned into a big story at this point that he was, the cops were on the lookout for him. They're trying to arrest him and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. But new explosive details confirm now that the accuser now at this point is trying to sue Michael Irvin for over $100 million for this alleged assault. She's suing him for every penny. And Michael Irvin's had a history of this. He's had a history of stabbing his teammate in the abdomen with a pair of scissors at this point, at a barber shop at this point. Drug usage, getting in trouble in Miami. Like we've all seen the Michael Irvin saga of this guy doing the most stupidest things. Here in this generation, you think you would know better. Here in this time period, knowing what's going on, knowing the age that he is right now, which he's in his mid to late 50s. The fact that this guy is really an issue in the media now at this point, and his name is plastered all over the media. Well, it's just one crap shoot after another with Michael Irvin. And Michael Irvin, as much as I like that guy and his great personality, when he just, for 5 seconds off camera, wants to become a douchebag, well, in that moment, he's a douchebag. There's no other way of looking at it at this point. Like, that guy will just pull the wool over people's eyes, and he'll turn out to be the biggest douchebag in the room. That's what it comes down to it. That's what it comes down to it. It's sad. It really is. In reality, it's sad. But, Michael Irvin, it shouldn't be that surprising. Michael Irvin at this point being the complete waste of space when it comes to the general public, knowing the meaning of the word no, not knowing when to keep your mouth shut at this point. It's just one sad story after another with Michael Irvin. It really is. Michael Irvin opens his mouth at this point, makes himself look worse by denying things. And now at this point, you had a big gig on ESPN. That may be over now. He is dealing with a lot of drama. Although he can get away with it. Who the hell knows? He could get away with it. There's a lot there to digest with that move there. But yeah. Otherwise, it didn't work out for him. It really didn't. In this case here. And it's kind of sad too, because knowing what this guy knows and knowing, he's at that age now where he's an adult here and has children of his own, I believe. I mean, it's just, you don't want to do that. You do not want to do that. I'm just saying. Aaron Rodgers came out of hiding this week, came out of his darkness retreat, and announced that he is unsure still, and the decision will come sometime in the near future. I'm so done with the Aaron Rodgers saga. I really am. There's a move now that's been rumoring around right now. David Ricari called out Rodgers and basically just wants him gone. He's been done with his crap now for a while. There was a report on Black and White Sports before I even got on here saying that it could be a possible trade from Green Bay to Carolina for Aaron Rodgers at this point. Now, the question is what Rodgers' worth now at this point after the year that he had, because his trade value plummeted out of the season he had this past season. And you can argue right now Carolina may look at this and go, do I really want this to happen with us? But it's a more talented roster. So look at that in that perspective. You got a new head coach, different regime, different system, and it's all benefiting Rodgers at this point because he's the alpha male, the old veteran, the wise man at this point. So can Rodgers make it happen? I don't know. There was a TikTok going out this week where Brandon Marshall and I am on the Athlete podcast, putting a teaser out there of saying whether or not Aaron Rodgers retired at this point. And honestly, I don't really care if Rodgers does retire, to tell you the truth. I don't care if he does. Because realistically, what has he done for this team at this point? Other than force your friend out the door in Devontae Adams. You forced him out the door. You basically create an entire nightmare scenario for your girlfriend, who she dumped your ass because you were going to move to Tennessee at this point and play with the Titans and be closer to her and say you changed your mind and play with a useless Packer team that had players learning the system for the first time. And realistically, in all honesty, Aaron Rodgers blew it in his season with the Green Bay Packers. I think realistically, he should leave the Green Bay Packers and go play somewhere else. The Jets, too much drama there in the New York media. He couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle the first 5 minutes. Tennessee, really the right move based on the fact right now of not really giving up too much. But in reality, you're getting one old quarterback to another old quarterback with Jordan Love who's ready to go. They want Jordan Love to start. Ryan Tannehill will take a seat and be the backup for Jordan Love if this trade were to happen, which is why it's never going to work. But then you have Carolina, who the question may be now is who do you give up in this scenario? Do you give up P.J. Walker, a third-round pick and 2 second-round picks for the next year's draft? You know, there's a lot there that they could just give up in this move. I mean, it makes a lot of sense here now going forward for what Green Bay could do. Because that trade, at the end of the day, is probably the best trade you're going to get for Aaron Rodgers. P.J. Walker is your backup quarterback. Maybe a defensive back or two. Maybe however Alexander gets, J.C. Horn in a trade here for a good comeback right there. I mean, it could happen. They could be getting players in the draft because Jair Alexander took a pay cut along with Preston Smith, so that comes into play there in a nutshell. But I think realistically, we have to ask ourselves this question: does anybody want Aaron Rodgers? Does anybody want the entitled Aaron Rodgers who quits when the going gets tough? I don't think anyone's going to want that player. Longtime head coach John Fox has just landed another job after being an assistant coach last year for the Indianapolis Colts on the defensive side of the ball. Takes the same job, but with the Detroit Lions. That was announced on Wednesday that he will be taking the gig now going forward with them. Good for John Fox. Keep up the good work, man. God bless you. Still coaching today in this day and age. I think he may be the same age, if not younger, than Andy Reid. I want to say either that or older. I don't remember what the exact age is at this point for him. Patrick Mahomes this week was getting a lot of news this week as far as his contract goes. There's been a rumor that the GM wants to extend his contract to more money. There was also another rumor this week that they might be taking a pay cut in half, taking half of his pay out of it at this point, which honestly I think Mahomes might be open to. Because depending on what happens to Juju Smith-Schuster not going forward in free agency, you might just have to take a pay cut. It might be a smart move on your part, Patrick, to take a pay cut here. And here's why. Because realistically, this is just my take on the whole thing, and I think the whole thing here makes a lot of sense now going forward. If you want to retain the talent that you had in this team last year, like Kadarius Toney, Juju Smith-Schuster, Travis Kelce for the long run here, you're going to have to take a pay cut here. And I mean a massive. I'm talking 3/4 here. I'm not even talking half here. At least 3/4 of your pay out of it. It's not going to kill you. You're the face of the league now at this point. You want a simple MVP while winning league MVP in the same season, which you might do again next season. So that's that. The other thing is this is a good move on your part if you do take this pay cut. Now, do I think he does it? I don't think so. I don't know. It's like the reversal effect here for what New England did to Tom Brady over the years. Except now Kansas City's not going down that road, I guess, with Patrick Mahomes. I guess they want to overpay him as much as they can because they feel like now, well, if we keep giving him more money, he'll be even better and better and better and better. You know what I mean? Like that. Like that's the mindset at this point. Mahomes went through it this week with Bill Belichick this week. Apparently, he's been saying now how Bill Belichick changed his game. So Bill Belichick has a hand now in making Patrick Mahomes the face of the league at this point. Look, apparently in his ego mind, he thinks he made Tom Brady the face of the league. So he might as well be thinking the exact same thing with Patrick Mahomes. So giving the old 70-year-old man more ego at this point, entering his 24th NFL season, might be a good move, might be a competitive mind game set, knowing they're going to be playing each other in Germany in about 6 or 7 months or so. So, I mean, it's a good move. It's interesting. I think, actually, they might be playing in November because the Germany game last year between Seattle and Tampa Bay was in November. So that could be the same exact thing right now at this moment. This game could happen on the week of my birthday. It could. Or it could be 2 weeks right before Thanksgiving. Who knows? Depending on where they schedule these games, it's just we'll see what happens now going forward. This should be very interesting, though, see how will this play out. And my gut's telling me that this will be a good game. Actually, now at this point, it'll be 8 months away because of November. Because right now it's only March 3rd, so it'll be 8 months until that happens. Very interesting. We're going to continue more on the NFL news. This is a long day as far as NFL news that just broke yesterday. This was almost too much news, and it got to the point of this yesterday. So Jalen Carter, defensive tackle, was booked at 11:33 Wednesday night and got bailed out after posting bond at 11:49, just about 16 minutes. Possibly was involved in his killing his teammate and his staffer the night of the national championship game where he got behind the wheel and got drunk. Came back at the combine the next day. So imagine that for a minute. This guy was booked and arrested, and within the first 15 minutes of being in a jail cell, he was released. Let me just do this quickly here because it is getting a little dark in here. Oh, I don't really like that. That's gonna really make my room look even dimmer. Hold on. Is that better? All right, that's good. A little bit better there. Anyway, back to what I was saying before. So Jalen Carter was booked and arrested for killing his teammate and his staffer. Now, here's my theory at this point. This became headline news right as the combine started, right as the defensive ends came in there, defensive tackles came in there. It's all apparent that the timing of this was just right on the money here. They somehow got his fingerprints and all this stuff like that. It's insanity. But unless there's an eyewitness saying that this guy murdered this staffer and his teammate, I'll believe it when I see it. Because now they just drugged this kid, knowing this kid's got a tons of followers at this point, is gaining attention after winning the national championship and declaring for the NFL draft. And the combine has started this week anyway. So there you go. It's my introduction to the NFL combine. It just amazes me, really, of how much people put the blame on this kid, knowing of what's happening this week. Now, do we know officially what happened to that staff member at this point? Was he in the car at this point? Should he take more initiative at that point? Well, I don't know. Get behind the wheel at this point and help his buddy out who just won a national championship game? There's your thought process right there. The teammate who was I guess I don't know if the teammate was also drunk in this whole thing. I don't even know. He may have been, which is probably why the other guy was driving. Maybe the staffer was drunk too. Realistically, there's a lot of things that we do not know about this story. And the fact that he was able to return to the combine this week this quickly. There's one thing that plays out in my head in this whole thing. And it's this. Either he did do it, but he's going to get away with it. In reality, even though it's a rookie, so it's kind of hard to get away with that kind of stuff in one of these days. I mean, for a veteran, maybe it's easier for them to get away with it. But for a rookie, it's harder. This guy is not going to get picked in the first top 5 in the pick, no matter how good he is. His stock plummeted at this point. That's what happened. When you do that to somebody, it's just one crapshoot after another. That's exactly what it is. And it's sad, like, did he kill his former teammate and his assistant coach? Who knows? Suppose he was driving at the time, which is conveniently when they put this in and stuff like that. So if this stuff would have came out before the combine and they actually had evidence, I would believe it. It's kind of hard for me to believe it at this point. It really is. It really is. Let's see, more news to get into now at this point. Brian Flores is going through with the lawsuit. Judge some of Brian Flores, right now can press discrimination claims in court. This was according to ESPN News Services. This is how it was thought out here. NFL coach Brian Flores can pursue discrimination claims against the league and 3 teams after a federal judge on Wednesday rejected the option of arbitration, presumably before Commissioner Roger Goodell and offered some stinging observations about the status of racial bias in the sport. The written decision by Judge Valerie Caproni in Manhattan, clearing the way for Flores to bring his claims to trial, also required 2 other coaches who joined the lawsuit to submit arbitration. The league had tried to move the Flores claims to arbitration, citing contracts that coaches had signed. The judge said that Flores can let a jury decide the merits of his discrimination claims against the league, the Denver Broncos, the New York Giants, and the Houston Texans, but that he must pursue his claims against the Miami Dolphins through arbitration. Caproni also ruled that the claims brought by Coach Steve Wilkes and Ray Horton, who joined the lawsuit, must go through arbitration. Flores has sued the league and the 3 teams a year ago, saying the league was, quote, rife with racism, particularly in its hiring and promotion of black coaches. Caproni wrote the description by the coaches of their experience of racial discrimination in a league with a long history of systematic discrimination towards black players, coaches, and managers are incredibly troubling. Post quote. The judge said it was difficult to understand how there was only one black head coach at the time Flores filed his lawsuit in a league of 32 teams with black players making up about 70% of the rosters. Quote, we are pleased that Coach Flores' class claims of systematic discrimination against the NFL and several teams will proceed in court and ultimately before a jury of his peers, Attorney Douglas Wilder said in an email. He also added that we are disappointed the court compelled arbitration of any claims before Mr. Goodell, as he obviously biased and unqualified to rule on these matters. We expect him to delegate those matters to a truly neutral arbitrator as a matter of fundamental fairness. The league did not immediately respond to the request from the comment of the Associated Press or whether Goodell would rescue himself from the process. Roger Goodell just needs to stop being the commissioner. The court system has now gotten to the point saying that they can't take this guy seriously. Brian Flores can't be taken seriously as a black head coach who's feel discriminated here in this case. This is a guy who's had every player gone against him in certain situations. Now they feel some kind of there's some shades being thrown there or whatever. Tua Tagovailoa got you fired. This is not a racism thing. This was a Tua thing who didn't like your attitude, who thought you were a horrible head coach, and if it wasn't for him, you would have been fired weeks ago. That was the mindset in this whole thing for Tua. Tua, in this case, got you fired. Not Roger Goodell, not John Elway, not John Mara, not Bob McNair. Tua Tagovailoa got you fired. The court is doing this because Roger Goodell is getting paid $500 million, and the attorney arbitrators know it, and they want that money because it's the only thing in town right now for court stenographers and attorneys and the judicial system to get their hands on in taxes. That's it. Only the famous ones, not the ones who are in the lower states. That's it. That's all what this is about. Has nothing to do with discrimination at this point, because if it was, Barack Obama would be a judge. Not some female person who could sip Roger Goodell out of his money. And I'm not even trying to defend it here, although it may sound like it here on this podcast. But this is what it's really come down to. All the hooks were there. I just read you the article. I just read the part how they're basically not taking Roger Goodell seriously in this case. How, quote unquote, he has to rescue himself once again. And I'm saying once again here because he has to rescue himself almost every time there's a case in the NFL. By the way, for anybody out there who's wondering right now, Alvin Kamara pleaded not guilty in his case. So also another trial going on. We got court cases going on all over. One in Washington, D.C., and one in Las Vegas, Nevada. Alvin Kamara, who was accused of beating up a person at a nightclub, along with the defensive back, I forgot his name already. But him and the buddy basically jumped the guy, although the guy was getting in his face, acting belligerent at this point, and Kamara just sacked him. That's really what it came down to it. Kamara just went bam. He's pleading not guilty at this point. He'll probably get an easy break from this whole thing, knowing how famous he is. But they might suspend him. Suspended here, Alvin Kamara faces a year-long suspension for this, if not even more. Because we're living in a time now where we got to stop doing this. There is no other free merit pass at this point. And I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. There's a lot of pros and cons in the whole mix of this court stuff. But back to Brian Flores for a minute, because I just had my note about Alvin Kamara. If the NFL wants to suspend him, great. If not, go kick sand. But Goodell, as far as I'm concerned, the NFL should make a ruling on this. The owners have to be embarrassed by him as a commissioner for allowing this article to even come out. They have no problem if it's gonna, if it's burnt evidence with Spygate stuff like this. That's been going on for over 60 plus years in the NFL. There's no problem if that gets let go here, right? But if a guy gets, in front of a female judge who may as well be, and I'm not even sure if I can look this up right now, and this may be a black judge. Not saying there's anything wrong with this whole thing, but you never know. It's up and about right now. It's interesting. I will say that it is very interesting to hear in this case on whether or not this girl is a black female judge. And the only reason I say this is because you're not going to hear that very often from a white Manhattan judge. You're not going to hear that very often. You're not going to. It's just, it is what it is at this point. It's it's surprising that this is even a story this week. But the fact that this is even happening at all is not surprising. I think he knows now, Flores, that he's got no other shot of getting in the NFL. And a white female judge. Actually, an older judge, actually. She's 67 years old from Lee County, Alabama. She was born and raised in Lee County, Alabama, who's now in the Southern District of the New York judicial system. That's what this is about. It's a cash money grab at this point for both Flores and the judicial system from Roger Goodell. Making the NFL look bad, making the NFL look racist. That's what it is. Which in reality, I mean, you kind of have to, at this point, they kind of are with their bull crap, with their whole NFL ruling. It's kind of sad, actually. But yeah, she is a female judge. Imagine that. Imagine that story coming out this week. Antonio Brown becoming a part owner of an arena football team, Albany Empire, which his father had played for at the start of his career. Antonio Brown followed in his footsteps to not only, really be part of the team, but he's part owner, according to CBS Sports. So good for Antonio Brown. Let's see. Joey Porter Jr. wants to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, wants to be picked by his hometown Steeler in the upcoming draft. It would be a nice story, realistically, for Joey Porter Jr. to play where his father played at in his career. Do I see it happening? Maybe. I mean, at this point, they're going to try and replace Devin Bush anyway. So I guess you might as well take it while you can. It's a good story. It's a feel-good story in the NFL draft. There's not a lot of that in the NFL draft as much anymore. There really isn't. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But I think Joey Porter Jr. can be a big key difference maker on that Steelers defense when coming out of the draft. Learning from TJ Watt, learning from what his father gives to the team. And I think he's still coaching the team, if I'm not mistaken, at this point. So it's kind of like father and son duo for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there you go. Robert Saleh says the Jets want to re-sign quarterback Mike White. Quote, he should be on this roster. This is also according to CBS Sports. Mike White, if you want my honest opinion, should go somewhere else where he's going to be a starting quarterback of this team. He should go somewhere else where he knows he's a starter. He's a number one guy. And Mike White, I think, realistically could fit in perfectly. And I get he's giving the list of teams right now. The Carolina Panthers, the Las Vegas Raiders, let's take a look. Seattle Seahawks, if they don't end up getting back Geno Smith. New York Giants, stay in the New York market. If they decide not to get Daniel Jones, because Daniel Jones right now wants to make more than $45 million a year. And in reality, if we're going to really be honest with ourselves now going forward, if Tua don't work out, he should go play for the Miami Dolphins. I just made a case right now for 5 teams that could use a starting quarterback at this point, whether they were a playoff team or a crap bag team that's going to rely on a rookie quarterback in the near future to help their team out. It's not going to amount to anything. It isn't. It's not going to amount to a damn thing. It's unfortunate that people out there just seem to think to themselves that Mike White doesn't deserve to be, a starting quarterback, but he should be. The Jets should resign him anyway and get rid of Zach Wilson. This is my high take for you right there. Zach Wilson's a bust. There's your take of the day right there from considering I'm not a fan of the Jets either. There was a TikTok issue between A.J. Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster. He fired back saying, leave me off all of your TikTok shit. That was written today by Jordan Denani today right now. Little heat exchange there with A.J. Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster. Juju Smith-Schuster, by the way, who's a Super Bowl champion with the Kansas City Chiefs. as A.J. Brown had his Terrell Owens moment. Unfortunately, it came crumbling down in the end for Philadelphia. So, not feeling the Juju Smith-Schuster teasing in this case. It's kind of amazing. Former Carolina Panther, Jerry Richardson, former owner of the Carolina Panthers, passed away at the age of 86. Cause of death was not released. I did not find that on the website. That was according to Newsbreak. So, condolences goes out to the friends, family, and colleagues to Jerry Richardson again. Very nice owner to the Carolina Panthers in 2 Super Bowls since starting the franchise. Took him to the 2003, 2004, 2003 Super Bowl year, the 03-04 year, and 2015, 2016 season where both of those resulted into losses, by the way. But very sad that he passed away at the age of 86. Very sad. I still have a hard time believing that he passed away at this point. I got the news the other day when I was at work, and I just said to myself, wow, very nice man. Very sad that he had passed away. And this actually was announced on Thursday. It was actually not announced a couple days ago. But Jerry Richardson, 86 years old, he will be very missed. He'll be missed very much at this point. Jets, we're going to take up the Jets here for a minute. Jets comparing Derek Carr to Matthew Stafford. That's according to what Robert Saleh was saying, comparing the two quarterbacks to one another. First of all, kind of close. Not going to lie. Derek Carr, close it up to Matthew Stafford. Neither one are both elite quarterbacks. Neither one of them have a really good playoff track record. The only difference is one's got a ring and one doesn't. I mean, that's really the only difference here. Their style of play is very similar. The only difference with Derek Carr is that he throws too many interceptions. There's too many interceptions thrown. Too much. And Derek Carr really didn't have any star players. I mean, if you want to compare Devontae Adams to Calvin Johnson in this whole conversation based on the season that Derek Carr had, go ahead. I mean, Matthew Stafford had Cooper Kupp, Calvin Johnson, Allen Robinson, and Odell Beckham Jr. The only thing Derek Carr had for a wide receiver, and I'm just going to be really honest here, Devontae Adams. Hunter Renfrow is not there yet in that elite conversation. He's got the elite contract, but he's getting there. It's not like he's the top guy. He's not a Hall of Fame worthy conversation debate yet. Way too soon. But yeah, it's a pretty damn close comparison. I read that the other day and I said to myself, wow, I can't believe you actually compare these guys. It's amazing. Dalton Schultz possibly returning to Dallas at this point, according to free agency track right now, or heading south to Houston. Among the top landing spots right now for tight ends. This is what was predicted for Schultz right now. This is the last 2 seasons that he's posted here. 135 receptions, 4th in the league. 1,385 yards, 6th in the league in receiving yards. 13 receiving touchdowns, 5th in the league. He has played over 43 games for the Dallas Cowboys from 2018-2020. 17 games in 2021, 15 in 2022. He had combined 17 touchdowns in the last 4 or 5 seasons with the Dallas Cowboys. I said it before, and I'll say it again. Dalton Schultz is going to end up being an Indianapolis Colts player. There's no other way of looking at it. It is what it is. I kind of hope he gets to an area where he will be happy with at this point. He'd be a really good piece right now for Indianapolis at this point. Like I said before, C.J. Stroud is going to go to be a Dallas Cowboy. Because he went on record today saying he didn't want to be a Chicago Bear. That's also according to CBS Sports. But back to Dalton Schultz for a minute. Got that out of the way. Found Stroud. I kind of hope Stroud does good for himself. Does he ever accomplish anything in Dallas? I don't think he will. I think Dallas will have him for about 5 or 6 years, and then down the road, free agency wise, comes around. Things could happen. Guys could end up coming back. There's just a lot there to digest on this table. But here's what CBS Sports has going at right now at this point. I'm going to entertain it just because. The Houston Texans being one of them. Detroit Lions. I would put them second at this point. They could use a tight end at this point. They haven't had a really good, decent tight end in a while. So Detroit's one of them. Tennessee Titans. Very interesting choice because, well, at least since they lost Juano Smith really a couple of years ago, they really haven't had an elite tight end on their team. And I'm not saying Juano Smith was elite for Tennessee, but they haven't had a really good tight end since Juano Smith, and I believe since I'm trying to think here, but I think it was Todd Heapin his last year in Tennessee, I believe, because he was with the Ravens and then with the Titans. So there's that for you. But if I had to say realistically, if the Colts weren't in the plans here for Dalton Schultz, out of all these three teams that he could possibly go to, Detroit's probably your best option. You got a quarterback that got drafted in the near future, whether it's Bryce Young, whether it's CJ Stroud, whether they just keep Jared Goff and make Jared Goff better. It's just a nice way of saying Detroit's a good conversation starter at this point. And if I'm Detroit, I'd cash in at Dalton Schultz as soon as possible. Swoop him out of Dallas. Daniel Jones saying that he wants more than $45 million. Quote, he's way far off from the negotiations they're going into right now. Like I said before, and I'll say this again, Daniel Jones is not worth $100 million. He's not worth $100 million. The Giants are not going to re-sign this guy for $100 million. If it does, it's going to be the one thing they regret going forward. This guy had one good season, and the first 3.5 seasons, he was absolute freaking garbage. This guy had a magical run because finally he had a healthy offensive line. He finally had a great running back in Saquon Barkley, who's now elite in my opinion. He deserves a contract more than Daniel Jones does. Are you kidding me? And Daniel Jones is not a good thrower. They had more running plays because they were afraid of Daniel Jones throwing the ball. Just like the Jets don't trust Zach Wilson with throwing the ball, the Giants don't trust Daniel Jones with throwing the ball. This guy is not worth $100 million. He's not worth the money. He's not worth the added aggravation for that type of money. And if you want my honest opinion, Bryce Young in his first year is worth $100 million with that great arm of his than Daniel Jones ever was in college and in the NFL. So there you go. That's my hot take right there. The next Russell Wilson will make $100 million before Daniel Jones does. Give me a break. Give me a break. Bryce Young, by the way, going on record today saying he has concerns regarding his size. I've been this size my whole life. It don't matter. As long as you can throw the freaking ball, a pure, good, crisp NFL football for one of my teams in Boston, if you want to become a New England Patriot, you did work with Bill O'Brien in your last year in Alabama, actually your last 2 years in Alabama, by the way. You're going to spend another year there. Well, Bill O'Brien could have spent another year there. And it's kind of coincidental when Bill O'Brien left for the NFL, Bryce Young came right behind him. I'm just saying. Perfect good timing. Anthony Richardson had a meeting today with the New England Patriots, according to Patriots Wire, USAtoday.com. It was actually PatriotsWire.com, excuse me, and USAtoday.com. I thought it was one whole combined website. Every time when they post this stuff on my feed, I look at that and I get confused. And I'm just like, is that the whole feed? I'm not even sure anymore. But yeah, Anthony Richardson could be a draft pick for the New England Patriots, preferably first round, probably mid-second round, depending where Richardson lies. A lot of people have him high first round. I have him mid to late. Excuse me. This move is genius on their part, and I think realistically, if you could argue right now, if the Packers really wanted to do this, let's say Aaron Rodgers decides to retire, Jordan Love is on his way out the door at this point, clamoring to go somewhere else. The Panthers want to make a trade here to get him. Jordan Love for a first-round pick, Anthony Richardson, I say why not? Anthony Richardson goes to Green Bay, Wisconsin. Jordan Love goes to Carolina Panthers. There you go. That's the way I see it. He's a shoo-in at this point in that position. Because the Patriots have no shot of getting him. The Patriots right now have to make the decision. Either get Mac Jones, Bryce Young, or possibly the the strongest arm right now on the combine, Will Levis, who is touting about his arm strength, says he wants to show off his cannon. Will Levis, I think, might be the best quarterback in the NFL draft right now, along with Bryce Young. I think he's tied for the best. Yes, he kind of had a falling off period, but I think behind Bryce Young is Will Levis and C.J. Stroud. Those are your top three quarterbacks coming out of the NFL draft. I don't see how you don't see that if you're an NFL fan out there. But I think Levis is a shoe to go to the Giants. They're not going to pay Daniel Jones $100 million. It's just not realistic. Will Levis at this point will go late first round to the Giants. If he doesn't, I'll be stunned. I will be absolutely stunned if Levis does not go late in the first round. He's got a cannon. Can't wait to see it in an actual game. Jackson Smith Nagaba says the Packers are definitely looking for a receiver after the combine. If he's a shoo-in to go there to go to Green Bay, I think it'd be great. I think New England should cash in again on a wide receiver. You're gonna lose Jacoby Myers and the New York Giants. It's just that simple. There's no other way of pinpointing it there. You're gonna lose this guy to the New York Giants. It is what it is. I hate being the bearer of bad news when it comes to this whole thing, but you know what? You're gonna lose this guy. You are. There's no other way of looking at it. And I think realistically, New England should cash in on getting him. I think Zay Flowers may be a shoe in to cash in on it to get as well if you're New England. And if not him, then get, I would say, not this year's draft, but obviously next year's draft, Marvin Harrison Jr. That guy is a one guy to cash in. Hell, you should get both. Next year, here's what I think the Patriots should do. Get Jackson Smith Nagaba for this year's draft out of Ohio State. Get Marvin Harrison Jr. together. That is a great trio for Mac Jones to learn off of. Great thing to learn off of, and you're going to get a new head coach who just came from Alabama and Bill O'Brien. It's the way to go. It's a perfect move. It makes sense. It really does. Seriously, it does. Anyway, Notre Dame football coaches are Brian Mason, Chancey Stuckey, and Chris O'Leary emerging as potentials as NFL head coach targets for 2024. This is according to 24/7 Sports today. I'll believe it when I see it. I can believe Chris O'Leary more likely will get the job more than anything else. I think he's got more of a prestige to him at this point, leaning off of whoever else at this point to get the job. Stuckey, I don't know. Mason, I can't imagine those two guys leaving. O'Leary, I can. O'Leary, I believe he can fit the NFL mold as a head coach. I think he can. I think he can pull it off. Well, let's get to the NBA. Getting a lot of NBA talks from last night. Preferably the talks last night of NBA basketball. It happened last night again. The nightmare, which was Russell Westbrook and the Clippers losing in defeat to the Golden State Warriors 115-91. Jordan Poole had 34 points last night, 4 rebounds, 5 3-pointers made, 2 steals. Mavericks beat the Sixers 133-126. Luka Doncic had 42 points last night. Kyle Kuzma had 30 points in the win last night for the Wizards over the Raptors 119-108. Jeremy Shokin, possibly the future face of the franchise for the San Antonio Spurs, got 22 points last night with a career high 13 rebounds, 2 steals, and a 110-99 win for the San Antonio Spurs, beating the Pacers. So there's my thought right now on the Clippers right now at this point, because Ty Lue went on record saying today that they had to be tougher. They had to learn the discipline here. They got to be disciplined. It's really one way of looking at this. I'll get back in the NFL in just a second here right now because there's only really 2 NBA headline stories. And I'll circle my way back in the NFL. But I had to bring this up because This was on my timeline here, and I just couldn't wait to get into this whole thing. But here's your headline story. They're 0-4, the Clippers, since getting Russell Westbrook. Was it a mistake to buy out his contract? I think yes. I thought this guy would be competitive, make a deep run for it, but you want to know something? Russell Westbrook's game has completely left his soul. There's no other way of looking at it. Since leaving Houston to go to Washington, and then go and play for the Lakers, now back in Los Angeles to play for the Clippers. This guy is going to get Ty Lue fired. There's no other way of pinpointing it. There's no other way of explaining it. He is going to get Ty Lue fired. This guy has accomplished absolutely nothing as a head coach right now for the Los Angeles Clippers at this point. Absolutely nothing. Another body, another soul taken from the Clippers and let go. Only this time, Russell Westbrook won't take the blame for it, though, but Ty Lue will. Ty Lue's a scapegoat of his Clipper franchise. Russell Westbrook now has basically destroyed the confidence of Kawhi Leonard on his team and Paul George. And I think they're going to want out of this team after the season's over. This team is a disaster waiting to happen, and it's already happened. That's the sad part about this whole thing. It's already happened. And it's a crying shame. It really is. It's a crying shame at this point. That's what it has to come down to that fact. This team just sucks. There's no other way of pinpointing it. They just suck. There's no other way of looking at it. Anyway. So Charles Barkley and Sports Judge, the podcaster, first you can listen to his podcast on YouTube. Shout out to Sports Judge for that for finding this thing for me. I really appreciate it. This was via First Take as well, who was covering on ESPN. He was just on ESPN the other day for First Take. And this is what he said, quote, wait a minute. You're going to make $70 million and you can't play basketball for 3 or 4 days a week? They fly private. They got the best medical stuff ever created. People working the steel mill every day. I'm pretty sure they're tired too, but they go to work every day. Close quote. This is him basically crapping all over the NBA load management. And I look at this and I say to myself, you know what? It is a failed system. You want to know why? Because the NBA are afraid of getting a ridiculous lawsuit from these players. Once again, Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, the clown. Adam Silver, the clown of the NBA. That's it. That's all. Seal delivered. Bars. That's my take. That's my take right there on that article right there. A complete shot to Adam Silver, a complete shot to the star players who don't play a lot of basketball anyway, but somehow have enough energy to play it. I don't get it. Now, and I think I never will. That's my way of saying I just don't get this league at all. I really don't get it. And it's kind of sad when you think about it, really. Cameron Brate was released this week from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, along with Leonard Fournette, who was also released this week. I think I already mentioned Leonard Fournette on Tuesday. But they will become free agents. I think Fournette's going to become a Philadelphia Eagle, like I said. He's going to become a Philadelphia Eagle. I think he'll be the one that comes in there right now with more aggression, more losing the weight, putting the time and effort into working out. Cameron Brate, you could argue right now with Dallas Goedert could be a really good combination. They need a second tight end anyway. He could be tight end number 2 behind Goddard. So it makes a lot of sense here. It's going to happen. Raiders are planning to use a franchise tag on running back Joshua Jacobs if there's no long-term deal reached by Tuesday's tag deadline. So from 4 days from now, we need to find out on whether or not there will be a cut or not for one Josh Jacobs, a franchise tag, or a long-term deal. That also goes for Lamar Jackson as well, and the rest of everybody else who's out there in this case. Bengals are no longer committed in getting Joe Mixon future with the team. The former Pro Bowl could be a free agent I think Mixon is a shoo-in to go to Buffalo. They definitely need a running back at this point. He could be running back number 1. Devin Singletary could be a running back for the Cincinnati Bengals. That could be a possibility. Or in this case, could be number 2 behind Leonard Fournette in Philadelphia. That could be another possibility as well. A lot of things that could take into consideration here for Joe Mixon at this point. Let's see. C.J. Gardner-Johnson calling out former defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon in a post tweet and delete tweet saying, quote, and this is what he had to say. If I can just find the quote on here. I had the quote right here. Oh, here it is. You ain't put us in a position to make plays. Basically on the performance of C.J. Gardner-Johnson set to hit in free agency in the coming weeks. And the city is still stinging of the Super Bowl loss they had over the Kansas City Chiefs. But this is what the stats were, actually, when I actually did look at this at this point. He had a strong year after coming over prior to the New Orleans Saints trade. He tied the league 6 interceptions despite missing 5 games with a lacerated kidney. Corrick just had a 63.8 rating targeting Gardner-Johnson despite him giving up 4 touchdowns. In the Super Bowl, Gardner-Johnson was only targeted once, allowing 1 catch for 11 yards. Opposing quarterback completed 80% of the passes intended for Gardner-Johnson in the posting as they had a 79.2 passer rating. When targeting him, Gardner-Johnson did not have an interception nor allowed a touchdown, however, though. So that was a good stat behind that for Gardner-Johnson, which is good. Well, the Patriots had some sad news the other day. Keenan Allen not going to be a free agent. Will be still staying with the LA Chargers for the foreseeable future, along with Mike Williams, possibly. They are trying to retain both wide receivers for the 3rd year possible quarterback in Justin Herbert. And I pose this question to all you people out there. Out of all the star talent that is available in the draft and free agency, would you go free agency or draft here? And if you choose free agency, who would you choose? What would you want to have? DeAndre Hopkins in a trade? Jerry Jeudy in a trade? Keenan Allen? Mike Williams? Or bring back Jacoby Myers? I pose that question to you. I'm just going to leave it at that. Just found, I'm actually going to skip that video thing about Patrick Mahomes because most of you already knew about Patrick Mahomes. Now, let's get into Tom Brady news. Tom Brady has been contacted by General Manager John Lynch for the San Francisco 49ers for a possible coming out of retirement part 2. Coming out of retirement 2 for the greatest of all time in Tom Brady. 7-time Super Bowl champion, 5-time league MVP, 5-time Super Bowl MVP, multiple Pro Bowls, passing yard guru, the GOAT, possibly a 2-time Hall of Famer if they really want to do that in the NFL. You know, just leaving it out there for you people to decide. Question is now is, does Tom Brady really come out of retirement? Because he's taking a year off from Fox, he's not going to report to the booth until 2024. And the question now is he going to go in the draft? Is he going to be the one that gets in the Hall of Fame in 5 years? Does he get himself involved with the 49ers? Does he have one bucket list to cross off his list and play for the 49ers? That's the question that's on everybody's mind. And the answer to that question is no. Not realistic. It's not realistic because in reality, the guy is all done. He's trying to rekindle his family back together. His wife right now wants nothing to do with him. He could basically keep playing if he really wanted to. But I think the guy's all done. He did what he needed to do for the league for such a long time. He passed the torch to Patrick Mahomes. You want to know what Mahomes did with that torch? Win league MVP and Super Bowl MVP in the same season. You want to know what Joe Burrow did with that torch? Compete in the AFC title game 2 years in a row. So Brady has passed down the torch to everybody, except for Josh Allen. Let's be realistic. He didn't pass the torch to him. So there you go. And that's that. I just going to leave it at that. There's no other way of pinpointing it there. He's not going to come out of retirement. That's it. Alex Mardar, the man who killed part of the Mardar family, who was part of the whole Netflix series of the son, Paul Mardar, who murdered Mallory in that boating accident while driving drunk. Along with Busta Mardar, who took out a guy because he was gay. Alex Mardar, who's been known to take out his housekeeper, steal funds from families involved in that death. Convicted killer of killing his son, Paul Mardar, and his wife, Maggie Mardar, has been sentenced to life in prison. And let that scumbag bastard rot in jail. He deserves it. And I was surprised that he even got that anyway, because I thought South Carolina was going to get him the death penalty. I don't even know there is a death penalty law for them as far as the judicial system goes. But he deserves to rot in jail. He's a bastard for what he did to his own family members. Though I don't have any sympathy for Paul Mardar because that guy was a piece of crap. He should burn in hell for being an alcoholic and letting letting that poor innocent girl die. Driving around drunk, intoxicated, not giving a crap about anybody but himself. Abuse to women, to Megan Doherty. That woman deserved a lot better than that. Should have never gotten involved with that guy. I feel bad for the entire community down there, all the friends that they lost Mallory over the years. Thanks to that scumbag Mardar. And Alex Mardar, who called the cops after murdering his wife, after murdering his child that he produced. Because his wife wanted out. The wife was scared of that family. Scared shit straight. Brainwashed, really. And they're thinking that all the stuff they were doing was okay. Wanted a high life, but there was consequences to that high life. And you want to know what the consequences were? Her life. She did not deserve to go out like that on June 7th, 2021. Did not deserve it. I'm appalled by what happened here this week. Absolutely appalled. Disgusted, my ad, by that entire family. That woman could have changed that family, saved her husband. Instead, she paid the ultimate price by trying to escape it. Because once you enter in Mardar territory, there's no way out. You may be lucky to even live to tell the tale. But that whole family is full of disgusting, rich entrepreneurs who take advantage of the judicial system, who've got friends in law enforcement. It's an embarrassment that guy was a defense attorney for so many years. Had an opiate problem. Had a drinking problem with the opiates on top of it. This man is absolutely, positively disgusting. Rot in jail. You belong there. Tiger won't play in the Players' Championship. The 47-year-old is coming off a tie for 45th at the Generous Interventional 2 weeks ago. This is according to SportsIllustrated.com. You know what's also in Sports Illustrated this week? Nick Saban. Not happy about playing Tennessee, Georgia, and Auburn. Talking about how he was disgusted by this decision making by SEC schedule making officials. Another guy who wants to take it easy. And another reason why Mac Jones is a crybaby about adversity. So there's your take of the day. Nick Saban afraid of the SEC now. The once conference that he dominated over the years because of his age, he's starting to slow down. He can't handle it. He's afraid of losing. Nick Saban is afraid of losing. To teams who he's been beaten before, had one loss to them this past season in Tennessee, was 15-0. Now he's afraid of facing Tennessee. Now he's afraid of facing Georgia, who he lost a national championship game a year prior. So at the end of the day, Nick Saban, the all great money Nick Saban, the face of college football head coaching, is now afraid of facing his own conference. What a kick in the pants that is, right? Seriously, what a kick in the pants that is for a guy like that to be afraid of his own conference. That is scary to think about. That this is a guy who everyone was cherishing, saying he's one of the greatest college football head coaches of all time, now has a problem with facing conference foes who create good revenue for your university and good publicity for TV, for CBS Sports Network every Saturday, or for ESPN every Saturday during the college football season. Now I got a problem with this. What an absolute joke that is. I mean, really. It's just sad. If he's got a problem with it, step down. Retire right now from head coaching. If you're burnt out to a crisp, if this is your way of trying to announce that you might be cashing out of Alabama and just leaving before your contract's up, and you want to still get paid, that could be a way of getting your money cut and paid in half, just by that statement alone, from your athletic director, from your boss. So that could be a real kick right in the nuts, and it might just happen. It might just happen. So Nick Saban announced that today. I couldn't believe this because that was actually pathetic for a college football great, for an icon, for a guy who was in the college football ranks, went to go coach in the NFL, came back and coached Alabama to numerous national championships, about 7 of them. And really, at the end of the day, he don't like the tough competition. And this is why we got to have to see the first, 5 out of the last, or 6 out of the last 13 weeks of college football season, bad opponents go to Alabama and get smoked. Is that all part of Nick Saban's contract? Is Nick Saban getting paid a hell of a lot more money to kick ass at this point? It's like a kiss. It's like a reversal Super Bowl fortune there. The Super Bowl loser always gets paid more. I don't even believe it's even true. Honestly, I think the winner should get paid more than the loser, I think, in this case. Because really, it should be equal pay either way, regardless, because you're both on the grand stage at a mall playing in primetime television. While in college football, when you have the national championship game, it's the exact same thing. There's no equal, there's no, or not, I should say, there is equal pay for going to these games if you're coaching in them. But it's just more stupid crap, more ridiculousness when it comes to stories like this for Nick Saban. As soon as I heard this, I couldn't believe this. I actually couldn't even believe that a great head coach like that, that's like Bill Belichick saying, I want to face the crappy teams every year. I don't want to face the Ravens. I don't want to face the Steelers when they're good. I don't want to face the Raiders. I don't want to face the Packers. I don't want to face the Kansas City Chiefs in Germany. I don't want to face who's another good team? The Cincinnati Bengals. I don't want to face the Saints. I don't want to face it. I want to face sucky teams. I want to face the Browns. I want to face the Cardinals. I want to that's what it's like. Nick Saban saying he wants to dictate it to schedule making. Because see, they had a good back then when they had Tom Brady around, Bill Belichick. He had a good back then when it was the same college players that they repeat national championships with. And it was good back then when they had opponents that sucked so freaking badly because they couldn't develop anybody to save their life and recruit well. But when they don't recruit well, it bites them in the ass. See, it pains Nick Saban to lose Bryce Young and Bill O'Brien because he was never ready to lose those guys. That's it. I just hit it perfectly right in the nail in the coffin right there. Not ready to lose Bryce Young, not ready to lose Bill O'Brien, and certainly not ready to coach another quarterback at his age. But he's willing to take the money as much as he can. That's what Bill Belichick is going to do right now. Complain about the schedule making this point. Complain about Mac Jones. Whine about Mac Jones. Mac Jones comes back when they shouldn't whine about him. It's stupid. It's pure stupidity. That's what this is. It's more stupid stuff. We got some college basketball news we got to get into at this point. PC lost the other night. And we also should get in the NBA news, which is Celtics lost the other night as well. Or I'm saying, they won last. They won the other night. What am I saying? They lost to the Knicks. That's what I meant to say. They lost to the Knicks. That was Monday night. Wednesday, they beat the Cleveland Cavaliers by 4 points. They had a 117-113 win. PC had a loss, trailed by 25 points, lost to Xavier the other night, 94-89. In a terrible loss. Really not a good way to lose either. Just FYI. Not really a good way to lose those kind of games. You know, in a way where it's like, let me think about this for a minute. I have more college basketball news on here. I'm sorry I went through a long pause here. I was just trying to find the content for it. But March Madness is right around the corner. That's all there is to it. A few days ago, Iowa beat Indiana 90-68. 15th ranked went down at home by 22 points. But March Madness is right around the corner. The last weekend of college basketball is this weekend, which will be PC at home against Seton Hall, which is the game I will be going to tomorrow. And I think, yeah, I think really, I think that's really about it. Or as far as what college basketball has got going on at this point. I'm going on an hour and 26 minutes here, almost an hour and 27 minutes here doing this podcast. It's almost 6 o'clock at night. Wow. Anyway, we have some more college basketball news to get into other than that. Though, unfortunately, there's a lot going on in sports, believe it or not. A lot going on. We looked at the Thursday night scores from last night. Houston beat Wichita State 83-66. UCLA at home beat Arizona State 79-61. Arizona went to USC, won there 87-81. Purdue on the road survived Wisconsin 63-61. Go back a couple of days at the Province losing at home 94-89. Ohio State beat Maryland 73-62 in an upset win. Kentucky losing at home to Vanderbilt 68-66. Pitt on the road in Notre Dame losing 88-81. Gonzaga winning over Chicago State 104-65. Alabama, number 2 ranked, beat Auburn in overtime 90-85. UConn winning at home against DePaul 88-59. 11th ranked Kansas State beat Oklahoma 85-69. TCU, 22 ranked TCU to be exact, beat number 9 ranked Texas 75-73. Tonight's games, well, you have tournament championship games going on right now. In fact, one of them just went to final. First round, Monmouth upsetting Hampton by 36 points in Hampton, 164. Imagine that team who had not had a great season at all, definitely not going to make the NIT tournament, but may as well win the CAA championship out of it though. And they run the bracket here. I don't have the bracket in front of me, unfortunately. Tarleton won due to New Mexico State forfeiting. And later on tonight are more games tonight. Nothing in the top 25 per se. But here's your Saturday lineup for tomorrow. 20th ranked Providence facing Seton Hall. Providence 8.5-point favorites. Obviously, PC will get their final win at home and will finish the year. And I believe now will be 19-1 on the year in Amica Mutual Arena. 23rd ranked Kentucky will take on Arkansas. I'm going to call upset tomorrow and say Arkansas gets the W here, beats Kentucky. Kentucky drops down to 25th ranked. Pitt will face Miami at Miami. I'm going another upset here. I'm going to go with Pitt over Miami. Number 2 ranked Alabama facing Texas A&M. 2 ranked will get the win. I think Alabama beats Texas A&M. I'm sorry. Just being realistic here. They're too talented of a team. Too much horsepower. Texas A&M won't be able to overcome it with a 12th man. Iowa State loses to Baylor. St. John's loses to Marquette. I think Kansas State beats West Virginia in West Virginia. 12th ranked Tennessee will beat Auburn. Virginia will beat Louisville at home. TCU will beat Oklahoma. Kansas and Texas, which might be the game of the day, was coming out at 4 o'clock. I think Kansas will get the win. Kansas is way too tough. Texas has a lot of pressure on them. It's a big-time game at home. Kansas knows how to clinch those games. Last game of the year, make a statement. They got a W in Texas. Texas is 2.5-point favorites. I think UConn beats Villanova in Villanova. Xavier's at home against Butler. Xavier gets an easy win there. I'm going to go with Arizona upsetting UCLA. I think Arizona will get the advantage over UCLA. They get the win in UCLA. That team is a stacked team at best. Both teams are. Arizona's got way more lying on this than UCLA does. And I cannot wait to see these two teams go out in the Pac-12 championship. I cannot wait. And Wyoming and San Diego State, I think San Diego State beats Wyoming here. San Diego State is going in as 18th ranked heading in this matchup. So I will highlight all these games. I may record this at 11 o'clock at night. That might be the plan now going forward, because to recap all these games, I'm going to have to recap every single one of these games. I know I was just looking down just now at my phone. I apologize, but my phone and my computer are lagging right now as far as connection goes. I have great Wi-Fi. Otherwise, this would have failed like about 40 minutes ago as far as signal goes. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell. That is the story with college basketball weekend here as far as that goes. PC and Xavier put on what I would think right now might be possibly the game of the year as far as great game goes, the competitiveness, the drowning out of the crowd. Xavier, everyone would think they were on their way out, that Prowse would have taken the lead here and win. Instead, it gave PC the first home loss of the season. Think about that for a minute. It could be I think they'd either be 19-1 and 20-1 if they would win tomorrow against Seton Hall. So that's that. I have one more thing to talk about with I think I may have missed some hockey trades. Oh no, I got all of them. Oh, I got all of them. Okay. So I have some more free agency predictions, if I can even get to the page, which will hopefully will allow me to get to that page, which is still here, I believe, right now. Yes, it is. So here is the free agency lineup right now at this point. I'm not going to go through every single one of these lineups here. Fletcher Cox, Robert Quinn, and Brandon Graham, all on the unrestricted free agency list right now. I want to make these as quickly as possible predictions right now going forward. I think Fletcher Cox, Robert Quinn, and Brandon Graham both get re-signed back to Philadelphia. I don't see how they don't. Jalen Hurts at this point, I think, is not due for a contract for a little bit longer at this point. He's not really a free agent right now, I don't believe. So I think that guy, these three, will reunite in Philadelphia. I think this Philadelphia team is going back. They may as well have the same guys that will go out at this point. I think Hargrave, unfortunately, goes to Chicago. I think he does. Jimmy Ward, the safety, will take the place for C.J. Gardner-Johnson, because I think he'll go to Philadelphia. I think C.J. Gardner-Johnson, although I think Gardner-Johnson plays strong safety, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But if he were to take that place, that's going to end up happening. Devin Bush, inside linebacker, I think will join up with the Baltimore Ravens. Simply put, that guy is a good piece to have with Roquan Smith. It's a good combination. They're a good force. There's a good force right now with that defense. It makes that defense just a little bit better. And it's a good conversation starter at this point for Baltimore at this point. Eli Apple, I think it's a shoe-in to go to Baltimore at this point. He'll be the next defensive back to come to Baltimore. Not for a big-time contract, though, as he's been struggling with being relevant lately. So I think that's not going to happen. Troy Hill will also come to the Baltimore Ravens as well. I think his times in LA are numbered, and that's it. I think he is done with the Rams and will start a new chapter in Baltimore. William Golston, the defensive end for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, my prediction he'll end up going to is the believe it or not, and I'm going to be brutally honest here about this, I think he might end up going to the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins realistically could use another big piece at this point. Christian Wilkins at this point is another piece right that they have. He completes it here at this point. He stays in Florida. I think it works out for him. Sheldon Rankins, I think, ends up going to New England. Another defensive tackle they could use right now because I think Donovan Godchild is another piece right now they could have at this point. Nice guy that can play nose tackle as well. You can have two good nose tackles right now at this point. Godchild, I don't think is worthy of a starting job. So I think Rankins will take his job away from him. That simple. I think Anthony Brown goes back to Dallas. This is not in particular order. I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but I think these are really good moves here. Hakeem Hicks is going to be a defensive end next season, believe it or not, for the Cincinnati Bengals. Another big guy right now, another big beastie guy at his age at this point right now. He can barely move around, but he's a good enforcer, good player defensively, can make things happen. And I think he'll make things happen. Jadeveon Clowney, I think we'll go to the Minnesota Vikings. Clowney is a good player when he's healthy. I think his time with the Browns are numbered. I think him in relationship with Myles Garrett might officially be over. So that being said, that's on the defensive side of the ball. I'm not going to cover the offensive side of things at this point. I'm going to get into the wide receiver position at this point. I'm not going to go through the top 101 like I was planning on doing at this point. This is from sportstrack.com/NFL. But I will hopefully get the wide receivers on the listing here if this will reset itself on a page. Which it's not going to. I don't know why it's not that's not allowing me to go to wide receiver. Huh. Strange. We'll start off with DJ Chalk here because I wanted to get this out of the way. I think DJ Chalk, I was going to have him go to Kansas City. I was. But then I thought about it. Detroit could use it to keep him around, make Jared Goff happy. You get Jameson Williams coming back next year. Those two together, with Williams making his debut and Chalk being in there, being a veteran that teaches Williams the way, you get this guy a good deal. That team's going to be successful. And it's a perfect move. Marvin Jones goes back to Detroit. Another prediction as well to help out Jared Goff. You want to talk about making a key difference here at this point, being Marvin Jones being the number 2 guy, Williams being the number 1 guy, surpassing Jones here. Jones gets a contract at this point that's worthy for him at this point. I'm sorry, Jaguar fans, you're not going to retain him. He's going to go to Detroit. Let's see. Jarvis Landry. I was thinking about this. I was thinking Buffalo. I was thinking myself maybe Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Landry combination. But then I thought about it. I thought about it in my head. And I'm thinking, in a perfect world, would this work out? No. But you want to know what would work out? Jarvis Landry being a shoo-in to go to Philadelphia. Landry at this point completes the system. You got A.J. Brown. You have Quez Watkins at this point. If he decides to stick around, if not, it's a good duo. Landry kind of aging, but it makes sense here. And I think Jamison Crowder joins right along with them. I think Crowder's a difference maker right now. He's a good number 3 guy to have for Buffalo. He kind of fell out of the mold with Gabe Davis. He kind of fell out of the mold with Cole Beasley in the end there. There's no really a place for Crowder in that Buffalo system. There just isn't. And I think realistically it'll be very interesting to see what happens now going forward with that. I think McCall Hardman, I said to myself Philadelphia was the right place for him, but then I thought about it, I'm thinking, you know what? What about the Seattle Seahawks? Harmon with Geno Smith possibly, or Bryce Young, or Drew Lock, or whoever. Drew Lock can try it out with DK Metcalf. He can try it out with Tyler Lockett. He's got the wide receiving core at this point. It could be Lock's time. And Harmon at this point could be a good number 3 for Seattle. He could be. Rashad Higgins is staying in Carolina, along with Trent Sheffield coming from Miami to go to Carolina at this point. And Marquise Goodwin, I think in my prediction right now, is going to end up staying in Seattle as well, along with this move right here, which actually would benefit Buffalo more. Actually, more than anything else. Moving on from that, back to Buffalo. Philip Dorsett goes to the Buffalo Bills. It completes the mold right now. That's a good number 3 to have. Cole Beasley's not going to come back. It's not realistic. It's not realistic. Nick Westbrook, the Nick Westbrook Irene tangent, which I never understood that at all, but I guess you could just call him Nick Westbrook. He is a restricted free agent. I think Nick Westbrook somehow ends up going to the Jets. I don't know what it is. I just have a funny feeling. The Jets have got a good wide receiving core at this point. I think Corey Davis, may let him in as a number 2 guy at this point, part of the second team. Let him in there, teach him the ways in the playbook. That's it. That's all this guy really is. I think Ty Hilton at this point, when you kind of think about him returning to Indy at this point, after playing with Dallas for 1 season, that could happen. But I think Ty Hilton stays in Dallas because I think C.J. Stroud's is going to need a wideout to throw to in Dallas if he ends up going to Dallas. If he stays in Dallas with Dak Prescott, either way, it works out in their favor. Darius Slayton, who is an unrestricted free agent, I think is a shoo-in. I think realistically to take Jacoby Myers' place. You talk about a guy that makes a key difference on the team. Slayton's the guy. Slayton will be your leading wide receiver next year for the New England Patriots. That's my take. Darius Slayton is your guy for New England next season. And Kendrick Bourne's entering his last season. You're going to get Jackson Nigga Smith. Najaja. I just had a racial word there. I apologize there. Anyway, that just slipped. So I apologize there for saying that. And finally, and they'll get Marvin Harrison. And like I said before, they'll get Marvin Harrison Jr. next season in the NFL draft as well. So they're gonna get Jackson Najah Smith from Ohio State. They're gonna have Kendrick Bourne. They're gonna have Jarius Slayton. But you know who also they're gonna have? Marquise Callaway. Marquise Callaway, by the way, who's underrated in my opinion. I think the guy could have a breakout season. Being a part of the Patriots roster, you got Mac Jones there. I mean, you got a guy at this point who's gonna be a really good piece to a Saint team that I think realistically overlooked on this team, in my opinion. For a guy who's had an active career, for a guy who's been a key difference maker for his career. Look at the stats. Could be a lot better. I mean, didn't do much of anything in 2020. Had about 50 receptions for about 700 yards and 6 touchdowns. I think he'd be worth more playing for somebody else. He had a down year last year because you had Andy Dalton and an injured Jameis Winston. In a team that was such bad offensively, it was pathetic. That's why he's going to be a restricted free agent. I mean, he's kind of underrated at this point. I think right now he's not playing to his full potential in New Orleans. He could go somewhere else. Marquise Callaway has really a good hand size. And Marquise Callaway has been in the league now for a few years. He came in undrafted in 2020. And really saw the bench because it was all Michael Thomas and Drew Brees. It was Traquan Smith. It was guys like that. And then you have Landry coming in the rearview mirror, steal the spotlight. It was never really about Marquise Callaway. Callaway needs to get away here and come to New England at this point. Fit in with the system. Now, what does that mean for Tyquan Thornton? I don't know. But there's that one option for Marquise Callaway at this point because he is a restricted free agent at this point, and no one's going to take him for high money. But you want to know where he can also go to try to succeed, maybe? Because I think he's underrated. I think his timing, Callaway was a pretty good wide receiver, coming out of what was it? I believe was he coming out of Tennessee? Was it Tennessee? I think he was coming out of at this point. I think was it a yeah, it was Tennessee back in 16-19. Yep. Yeah, but Callaway could be a good piece for a team like that. And we'll see. We'll see what happens if he goes to New England. But I think realistically, the Arizona Cardinals can be another good team. Kyler Murray's got a hell of an arm. He might be losing DeAndre Hopkins anyway. You add him to the mix. But you want to know who you also add in the mix in this whole thing? And I'm just, basing it off of what I've seen here as far as talented wide receivers go. Cam Sims. Cam Sims is a good piece for the Arizona Cardinals as well. You teach the young guy, you establish something right from the gate together. I like this deal a lot. I really do. Nelson Aguilar is going to be, I think, realistically, still a free agent. I don't think anyone's going to sign him this season. I think he sits out a year. That's my take. That's my take now going forward. I already went over this one is not really a lot for specialties. I might as well entertain this one before I go. Before I really end this show, this very long show. Mason Crosby is a free agent. My prediction for Mason Crosby in the year 2023, where he ends up going, is to the, and I want to say that this would be a really good move here on their part. I'm only entertaining kickers. I'm not doing long snappers here. Mason Crosby, you're going to go to the Chicago Bears and create a little stir, possibly in the Chicago Bear Green Bay Packer saga in 2023. He's on his way out the door. Play against your arch rival. Aaron Rodgers ain't going to be playing for you anytime soon. He's gonna go to Las Vegas. We already know it. We all saw the writing on the wall. If it's not Las Vegas, then retirement. And if not, if Rodgers retires, I think Mason Crosby retires. Robbie Gould. You want to hear something interesting? Here's another interesting take for you. Robbie Gould. In the year 2023, and I'm not sure what the Buffalo Bills kicker situation is looking like right now, but there is one way of looking at this. Actually, no, not Buffalo Bills. I'm sorry. Robbie Gould is gonna go to. I want to make this take very interesting here because, like I said, it adds more to the fire. The Green Bay I'll give you the choices right now. Green Bay Packers. I think this is my take here. Nick Folk's gonna get cut. I think Robbie Gould's gonna go to the Patriots. Or there's a big or here. Or he goes to the Buffalo Bills. That's a good take for you right there. And if not to either of those teams, I'll give you a fourth team just to make things very interesting here. Very interesting take. I think Robbie Gould's an underrated kicker, in my opinion. This guy's been a clutch kicker for so many years. Robbie Gould may just end up going, realistically, I say, to the Miami Dolphins. They could use a real kicker. Robbie Gould's a good kicker. Miami could take him. And that is, and I'll do one more for Greg Joseph here. I think Greg Joseph ends up staying in Minnesota. So there you go. Crosby goes to Chicago. for the Bears or retirement. Or actually, in this case, let me just think about this for a minute. What if Mason Crosby were to leave Green Bay to go to Las Vegas? What if Alvin Kamara got cut and released? What if Alvin Kamara got cut and released and went to Las Vegas as well? And here's another question right now for Bill for Patriot fans out there: Bryce Young or Mac Jones? Do you want to trade to get the first round draft pick and have Bill O'Brien teach him the ways in the NFL, or are you sticking with Mac Jones? A lot of thought processes right there. A lot of it. Let's take a look. Chase McCaughlin is an Indianapolis Colt kicker. I think he stays with the Colts. And Pinero stays with the Panthers. I didn't think it was going to even entertain this, but I thought about this for a while because the only thing I imagined for Mason Crosby to go to was, well, really the following: the Bears or just retirement. But are they going to really get rid of the kicker, the Raiders? Not really. Mason Crosby is going to be the guy that's there on kickoffs to not allow touchbacks because their young kicker right now just kicks it right in the end zone. So Crosby can just kick it right to the 5, right to the 6-yard line if you really wanted to. But really adds more rivalry to soccer here. You got Robbie Goodwin can either go to Green Bay, New England, Miami, Buffalo. It's just there's a lot there for Robbie Gould. Matt Prater, I think, stays in Arizona. I think Zerline stays in the Jets. And Greg Joseph stays in Minnesota. These are the only kickers that, believe it or not, have caught my attention here so far. Ryan Patterson stays in Jacksonville. I think Dak Dicker stays in Chargerville. Townsend stays in Kansas City. Quinn Norton. Want my honest opinion about Quinn Norton? If he doesn't stay with New England, and I think he'll go anyway. Quinn Norton is going to end up kicking next season and I'm just going to be realistic here, not for a starting role, but he's going to try to get in a starting role in the Atlanta Falcons. Just putting it out there. That's it. I'm all taked out. This was a long show, an hour and 53 minutes of the show. But you can follow me on J Alvo Sports at 123 on Snapchat. I never normally even start out with that. Wow. Joe Alvo on TikTok. I'm doing things backwards today. Wow. No more Bleacher Report. No Twitter. Facebook, Joseph Alvo. Instagram, Joe Alvo Boston Sports. That's really about it. Okay. Got nothing else to talk about here on this podcast. I don't know what just went off just now. Got a little distraction there. I don't know. I thought someone was outside my house. Anyway, if there really is nothing left to talk about here, which I don't think there is, let's just check and see if there is anything left to talk about here right now that's unsports related. But realistically, I might just cover unsports related stuff tomorrow, if anything. Actually, here's interesting news today right now. Colombia wants to deport 70 hippos from a group that once belonged to a drug lord, Pablo Escobar, because they won't stop breeding them. This is according to Joshua Zitzer, from the Insider this morning. That's a really weird combination right there. You got Mike Tyson with a freaking tiger, and you got Pablo Escobar with hippos. I never imagined Pablo Escobar, of all people, to have hippos. I'm just saying. San Francisco's Bay Bridge lights will go dark indefinitely on Sunday when it comes to suspension. This is according to Yahoo Autos. The suspension bridge were typically concerned with paying the toll getting to the other side, but a suspension bridge can also become an iconic symbol of its region. San Francisco, Pittsburgh, and Venice all have bridges you'll recognize at glance. inextricably associated with their cities. However, those lights could go dark forever on Sunday, March 5th, 2023. Wow. Very concerning. Let's see. A Florida man found a massive clam on the beach. Massive clam on the beach. Sorry, not claim. Massive clam on the beach. It was going to turn it into chowder. It turned out to be more than 200 years old. I would not want to eat that. Just kind of put it out there. That was also according to Insider. I would not want to eat that. So that is my unrelated sports topics of the day. That's all you're getting from me. This is nearly a 2-hour show. Jesus criminy. This is a long show. All right. Well, I'm done. Good night. See you all tomorrow night. This will be it's gonna be the Tonight Show version of Let Us Interrupt You, but it will be Let Me Interrupt Your Night on a Saturday night. Bye, guys.